Welcome to Otter Lake, where little Ricky takes flight through seasons of wonder and days full of light.
Hi folks, how are you all today? My name is Rick J.M. Goetze, Richard J.M. Goetze, and I am the author of the Little Ricky series of short stories. Back in 2020, when I retired from my job with the Federal Public Service in Ottawa, I was hit with the pandemic. The pandemic hit us all, and then I decided, well, gosh, all I wanted to really do was volunteer in old age homes in retirement and help the elderly and help the sick and the poor, because that's what I was always inclined to want to do. It's some of the values that I hold dear to me, was helping others. And when the pandemic hit, though, however, as we all know, everything went into lockdown. So there were no libraries open, there were no old age homes open, we could not visit old age homes, so I could not volunteer with the elderly as I wished. So I started thinking, what would I do? What would I do with my time? Because we were all locked in and couldn't go very far during those pandemic years, especially in the early months of the pandemic. So I was inspired because I had a very deep relationship with my brother who passed away. Christopher, my brother Christopher Goetze, passed away in the year 2000, shortly after COVID started. It was that summer. He actually had a COVID funeral, which was very sad. And shortly after his funeral, I decided that I wanted to tell short stories about him, about his life, and that's kind of where I got started as a storyteller. So later on, in the end of the summer, after publishing a few stories on Facebook, I had a chat with my sister. I love her very much. Her name is Audrey. And I said, what am I going to do now during the pandemic? You know, we're all in lockdown. Everything is closed. Times are difficult. We all know how stressful those days were. And so basically, in my career, I used to be an author, however, of government documentation. I'd write government technical training guides and government technical documents, and I'd also provide training on government systems. And I was talking with my sister, as I mentioned, Audrey, and she says, well, why don't you write some stories? You've written some pretty good stories about our brother Chris. You know, why don't you carry on and write new stories? I said, oh, Audrey, nobody wants to read technical documentation. What would I publish it on? I'd have to study a system and what have you. But she says, no, just tell stories that are real to life. Tell stories that are about what you know. So what do I know best? I know best about my little hometown of Otter Lake, Quebec, and I know best about the sweet, wonderful people who live and lived there, and of course my family members. So what I did is I went through the back of my mind and I started crafting fictional stories based on memories. I have wonderful memories of growing up in Otter Lake. I have wonderful memories of all the people who live and who have lived there. And likewise, I have wonderful memories of my family members. So what I've done is I've transformed these wonderful characters from real life and my memories into wonderful, charming fictional characters. And in the year of 2020, late in 2020, that fall, I started drafting the first book that I published, which is called Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake. And it is my first collection of 12 adoring, heartwarming short stories. They are tales of a boy from age 0, the day he was born, to about age 5, growing up in a small town, meeting with kind people throughout town, and just basically overall how to look for lessons in life to help them to make you grow. So that's basically how I started my first book, and it was very successful. I published this in 2021, and I sold, 150 copies, which helped me raise about $1,000 for the food bank that year. So yes, that is what I do. I've decided, even though I'm a published author, I self-publish on Kobo and on Amazon. I donate all of the money that I get. Every bit of my royalties goes to a food bank. All I want to do in life is to help people who are less fortunate than me, so I sell my stories to help the poor. Whenever you buy a book or whenever I sell a book and I make some royalties, those royalties at the end of every year go directly to a food bank to help the people who are struggling to find food to put on their table. So back to the book, I wrote these 12 original short stories, and now they've been on the market for a while. I've continued with a second collection called Little Ricky the Lad, from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures, and I'm currently writing my third collection, which is Little Ricky the Young Man from Otter Lake. And if health carries on and I'm doing well, I want to continue writing and sharing these little short stories because my fan base seem to be very happy with the stories that I'm creating. And I really think that they're charming, and they will help people to sort of go away, get back lost in time, and go back to a time when things were easier and lighter, when love, forgiveness, learning, compassion were all very important. It's about getting back away into historical fiction of the 1970s and 80s, when life was so much, in my view, so much better for us, because we took things easy. We weren't all latched to our social media as much, and we really had time for each other. So these stories will take you back to reminisce during those wonderful days. All three collections do that. It's spanning from the 1970s right up until the late 1980s is a span of my three collections of short stories. Anyhow, what I wanted to do was to introduce something new. As you know, my fans know, I have a YouTube channel, and on my YouTube channel I post various ads for the various stories. I have well over almost 4 dozen stories now, almost 41 short stories published and available for sale in audiobook, in ebook, and in printed copy, of course. The printed copies are the most expensive because they have to pay for the paper and the shipping, of course, so they're always the most expensive. But you can have my stories, my books, if you buy an individual story, for as low as $6 Canadian. If you buy an ebook or you buy an audiobook, they're selling very, very inexpensively on Kobo for audiobooks and on Amazon.ca, Amazon Canada, for the ebooks and for paperbacks. Paperbooks, of course, as you know, as I said, paperbacks are a little bit more expensive because we have to pay for the printing and for the shipping. I have been asked recently if I could ship these out to stores and have them available on store shelves. I would love to be able to do that, but I'm a retired civil servant with a small pension, and I'm not rich. So to be able to do that, I need to have a publisher and I need to have a distributor. And so basically what that means is I'd have to buy the books myself and keep a stock of them and then ship them out. So I'd have to pay for the books, ship them out to all the stores, and hope that they might sell. So because I want to save money to feed the poor and not to invest money and leave books in a box or on a store shelf for many years, I want to just keep them available for now online. Perhaps someday, if I become very rich and famous, I'll be able to have them available in stores, especially locally up in Otter Lake in the Renfrew area. Anyhow, for now, I'm going to continue selling on Amazon.ca, the Canadian version of Amazon, and of course on Kobo, a complete Canadian company, Kobo.com for audiobooks. I am 100% Canadian. I'm born and raised in West Quebec, and I'm very proud to be Canadian, very proud to be a Quebecer, and it's so important to me. So lastly, what I want to mention is what I'm starting today, and this is my first video post. I'm starting a new video post called Reading with Ricky. Reading with Ricky. So from time to time, I'm going to bring out one of my stories, and I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to narrate it to you out there, my fans, so that you can enjoy some of the short stories that I have. And if you really like that story, if you really like what I'm reading to you, perhaps you'll consider buying yourself a copy, or even having a copy for a souvenir of this special moment when I'm going to be sharing that story with you. When you think of Little Ricky, I know most Canadians know Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables is a wonderful series of short stories written by a famous Canadian author from Prince Edward Island, Lucy Maud Montgomery. She wrote the Anne of Green Gables stories, my gosh, way back when, turn of the century. Was it the 1900s, late 1800s, the 1900s? Forgive me, I don't know it by heart. I just know her stories, and I know her. She is a great Canadian author. And basically, her books have been on sale now for over 100 years. And or almost 100 years, and they've also been turned into miniseries starring Megan Follows, and there's also another follow-up called Road to Avonlea based on those stories by Molly Montgomery. In a way, I'm not trying to take away from her work, because her work is fabulous, but in a way, my Little Ricky stories are very much like Anne of Green Gables. However, Anne is a little boy. Anne is a little boy called Little Ricky. Little Ricky is a smart, funny little fella who grows up in a town called Otter Lake. It's a real town, but in my books it's a fictional town with fictional people. And he grows up and he goes through life living in that town, learning, loving, lessons, all of that. And I really think someday, I'm hoping, perhaps if I can fund it myself, if I become rich and famous, I'd like to create it into a mini-series as well and show it as Canadiana. It's It's true Canadiana, how things were in Canada back in the 70s and 80s, and have it, shown on TV or movie theaters. That would be my ultimate dream. But we'll wait and see for that. Anyhow, today, what I'm going to do is starting Reading with Ricky, and the first book that I'm going to talk about is the very first short story I wrote in the fall of 2020, and it's called The Beginning, which is the very start of the series, the first series, Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, The Beginning. Hang in there, it's coming up very soon. Hey there again. So basically, it's the first story in this collection. This is the collection of 12 stories, but today I'm going to highlight the first story, which is The Beginning. The Beginning. So if you take a peek here through the book, it's the very first story. So it's sold in this collection with 11 other stories, or you can buy it individually. It's called The Beginning, Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, The Beginning. So how does this story start? Well, I'm just going to sit back here and be patient with me. It's my first attempt at trying to read a story to my YouTube fans and to my Facebook fans. So Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake by Richard J.M. Goetze, that's me. Dedication to my sister Audrey. Audrey, I love you with my whole heart. To my sister Audrey, who encouraged me to write. And for those I've met along my writing journey who encouraged me to continue. Thank you, fans. Thank you very much for your really warm and wonderful support over the years. If you are liking my work, I hope you continue to support me. My books aren't very expensive. They're really something special. And if you would want to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a comment from once in a while, that really makes a big difference for me. It makes me so happy to see your comments and to see likes and to know that I'm appreciated. So please, if you can, if you feel like supporting me, I would really like that. And of course, if you buy a book, leaving a review is the best compliment ever. If you leave a review for the books that you buy, Amazon helps lift me up. Kobo and Amazon help lift me up as a Canadian author to give me a higher profile so that more people around the world will find my books. Right now, because I'm not selling a lot, I'm at the bottom of the scale, so my books are hard to find unless you know who I am. But with your reviews and your comments, well, my profile could be raised up and I could become maybe famous. Anyway, here we go, The Beginning. Hang on. Here we go. The Beginning. This is a tale of two anxious but loving parents who welcome their new premature son into the world during a frosty cold winter in January. Acknowledgement. A huge thank you to my proofreader and editor, Pierre-Paul Lacroix. The Beginning. So here we go at the beginning. For anyone who has lived there, all will testify that January can be downright frigid in Otter Lake, Quebec, especially during the winters past in the 1960s and 70s. Yards would be heaped with snow, frigid north winds would howl, icicles would clutch tightly to the edges of roofs, and the frozen ground would snap under one's foot. With frost on their breath and chills in their bones, villagers would rush quickly from their outings to get inside once more. Once unwrapped from their lairs, they would snuggle up at the closest wood stove, fireplace, furnace, or electric heater. Keeping warm on a cold early January afternoon is exactly what Veronica was doing on this day. She sat inside away from the winter drafts, close to the kitchen wood stove, peeling potatoes for the evening supper. She smiled as she sat there because she reminisced about the Christmas that had just passed. Christmas 1964 had been a meek one, but nonetheless a very happy one. Her 3 boys were growing up to be little men, and her baby girl, her only girl, was developing into a fine little lady. She could not believe that it had already been 1 year since her baby's first birthday, which was celebrated in early October. It surprised Veronica how quickly time had passed and how quickly the kids had grown. As the sweet memories of Christmas still lived in everyone's dreams, everyone, including the kids, was all happy and content because they indeed all had a beautiful family Christmas. That year, Veronica and Cyril were able to afford some toys for the kids. Father got his new snow boots, and everyone in the house was gifted with woolen stockings, mittens, scarves, and hats, thoughtfully handmade by dearest Granny. Veronica smiled brightened more when she thought about how happy she was having her 4 children and her loving husband as pillars in her life. The family had a simple life, but it was a good life. Father worked hard in his shop and provided the kids and she with the things that they needed. She too made efforts to help Father nurture the family and create a loving home for all. She sighed and imagined how things would even look brighter for them once the new arrival came. She patted her tummy softly and dried her warm tears as they trailed down her cheeks. She was expecting once again, and a spring baby was on the way. Oh, what joy! Would a new baby brother delight the boys, or will Audrey finally get a new cherished little sister? Veronica knew that only God knew. At 34, Veronica was not overly concerned about her pregnancy. She was in good health and was an experienced mother. After all, she already had 4 healthy children. Having lots of experience as being a mother, and with a pregnancy progressing well, she pushed away any fears because she still had ample time to get everything ready for the new baby. There was still time, a few months away, and she looked forward to bringing the baby home, not in snow, but in warm spring sunshine. However, unbeknownst to Veronica, the little one snug in her womb had other plans. It was now late afternoon on January 13th, and surprisingly, the signs and signals of labor were starting way too early. Once Veronica accepted what was happening, she knew it was time to prepare for an earlier than expected hospital visit. More to be continued in the beginning if you want to purchase Little Ricky the Beginning on Amazon or on Kobo. I hope you enjoyed this little reading that I've provided for you today. Best wishes to you all. Again, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up. A comment would really help. It would really make me feel joyful. And if you do buy Little Ricky the Beginning and you enjoy it and you like it, please give me a comment. I would love to see your comments and reviews on Amazon or on Kobo. They help me as an author. Take care. New reading, maybe in about a week, I'll bring up one called Wise Mothers and Forgetting Grandmothers, the second story in my collection, Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Otter Lake, where little Ricky takes flight through seasons of wonder and days full of light. Born in the frost with a heart full of dreams, little Ricky's laughter like rivers and streams. Families embrace, lessons